All right, YouTube and Lions fans. This is your guy. I'm not a Lions fan, but I'm going to talk about Patricia for a second about like why I believe that he is the guy for the job, for at least for the head coaching job for the Lions. And not to put him as a offensive coordinator or defensive coordinator or nothing like that, but the position of a head coach, why he fits the job. I'm gonna make this one point, and then I may build off of that. But it pretty much it goes like this. Patricia, out of all the coaches I've seen with the Lions, this is the only head coach I've seen opposing coaches make adjustments towards. Uh, the other coaches will either make adjustments to the particular player, or they pretty much already knew what the coordinator was going to do. So they really didn't have make much of an adjustment as much as wait for the team to self implode. That has been the Lions' history, from my understanding. I go back as far as uh, I was a Billy Sims guy, but I would say let's go back as far as Barry Sanders' era, all the way up to now. That has been the recipe. You game plan to focus one player, or at most two players, and you allow the coordinator basically to self implode. That's from play calling, play management, or whatever. And but Patricia, on the other hand, even I noticed it how coaches are adjusting to him based upon this losing season. This losing season, everything went completely wrong roster wise. You know, he had a depleted roster. But in the midst of that, he still put a game plan together that pretty much predominantly, I want to say, majority of the games he's leading in the fourth quarter. There's not really one game, if it is one game that a team completely blew out the Lions from top to bottom, which shows that he is a good head coach. So that means the team that he's playing against is adjusting to what he's doing versus just knowing that the Lions are going to self implode at some point or the game plan is to stop Barry Sanders or Calvin Johnson. Now, the reason why I stopped that little part of the segment to say the reason why I believe that this team is going to be great is because not only do you have to adjust to Patricia, you have to adjust to players now. Players that has technique or have effort as well as have an IQ. They know how to position themselves, right? So in other words, they found players that is not afraid of the stage. Particularly like if you get a bad call, a bad officiating or something like that, they still know how to rise to the occasion. We saw that firsthand with Trey Flowers, last year. So in the game against the Chiefs or the game against the Cardinals, some may say that was like bad. I won't say bad coaching. Or they would say the coach was out. Patricia was out coach. I would say if your players don't do their job, any coach will look bad. The reason why a coach looks good is because the players can execute what the coach wants them to do. And what makes a team great is when they can actually see what the coach do and they can get there before the coach even actually says it. Every now and again you get a team with a player like that, either on offense or defense, that what makes that team special, or at least that part of the field special. So like if you have a guy like Tom Brady, for example, he can you throw something on the board, he can see it, right? So he took what Bill Belichick and he just executed on the field. So you can build off of that, and that's what they did. Or you can take a guy like Ray Lewis. He can basically see the offense in his mind. So he's what consider we would consider him as a coach on the field. So you can build around that. The Lions have never had that player on their team. We have had pure raw talent from Barry Sanders to Calvin Johnson to Ndamukong Suh. And if you want to throw in a Stafford, you can. But other than that, they was making, like I would say this, they was making the attempt to build around Sue, but it couldn't make it stick. Based upon if either he didn't want to be here or money, whatever the case may be, they couldn't make it stick. They brought in Van den Bosch, they brought in Nick Fairley, and they was building around the Sammy Hill. They was building around him. And I believe it was if they could. I don't think they was gonna have. I don't think they was gonna be able to do it because of the cap constituents, where they was already strapped for cash between Calvin, Stafford, and him. They weren't gonna have much wiggle room to be able to do anything, so they had to let Sue go. But I noticed that they were trying to build around him. So, but anyway, with that being said, I believe that Patricia is the guy because other teams are making adjustments according to him. And with the player personnel that he have now, he can just throw it on the board and the players can go ahead and execute it. The the previous 2 years that he was here and when he was coaching, the players that he threw on the board, the stuff that he threw on the board was so advanced. Okay, if your ceiling is 9-7, there's not much you need to know. You know what I mean? I mean, if in other words, if the opposing coaches is pretty much know what kind of scheme you're going to run, like from a wide nine to a Tampa two, or whatever, if they already know what you're going to do, and then they look at the personnel that you have, they probably going to check off the boxes if they're what kind of effort do the players have, what kind of IQ do they have, what kind of technique do they have, and then you can go to the abilities, the talent. We always had the guy that always tried to talk with their mouth. I mean, their mouth would do the talking for them versus on the field. And we would get overachieving players here because our ceiling is 9-7. We never reached like on a consistent basis the NFC title game on a consistent basis. We is 1 year we may be going to the wild card, 1 year we may be actually past the wild card. But we never won a division, so nothing has been stapled here for another coach to be threatened by our current coach. So, but I noticed last year, particularly last year, with the depleted roster, and we're winning majority of the games in the fourth quarter. We just didn't have the guys to close out the game. Think about the Chiefs game. That was based upon what the Chiefs capitalized off of our mistake, but that was crucial spotlight moment, and we blundered. Same thing goes with the Cardinals game. Same thing goes with the Green Bay game. If you look at all the games that we lost, it was based upon crucial moments. And a person could say that that's based upon the coach. He got to get the players ready. But if the players don't know how to step up to that spotlight because they never done it before and they never been there before, personally, they have been mainly focused on themselves, making sure they got their stats so they can get their pay. I get it. But the guys that he brought in this year, not only are they getting paid, they don't care really pretty much about the stats. They play shows on the field. Take, for example, I'm going to say this, and I may be a minority with this one. Trufant is an upgrade over Slay. I'm sorry. To me, Slay is a good number two on a good team. He is not, he's a number one for us because what else do we have here? It's like Roy when the Lions drafted Roy Williams, and no, I'm sorry, like when the Lions had Roy Williams and they drafted Calvin Johnson. That's how it is to me. Roy Williams was good. He was decent. He gave you some stats, but Calvin Johnson was beyond stats. He's something that you have to, you have as a coordinator, offensive coordinator. I mean, as a defensive coordinator, you got a game plan around. So Roy Williams was a guy that you don't have to worry about. Slay is not a guy you have to worry about. So what Patricia's going to what they're doing is like instead of you worrying about Slay or even a thought about Slay, you're gonna have to worry about three DBs. And so like if they run, I ain't gonna say their preset would be like a nickel or a dime often, but I wouldn't be surprised if it wasn't. Like if they run with a lot of two linebacker sets. A fan may say like that's ridiculous. How you? It depends on what's. If you look at the personnel that they brought in, they heavy in corners or DBs, and they're really light in linebackers. They're not really heavy in a defensive line either. So it's going to be interesting to see how it works. But my point, I went somewhere else with that, and but I say all that to say that this team about Patricia, how the opposing coaches are basically they don't know what he's going to do, but they respect him based upon what he was able to do with New England, and they also respect him how he has a team prepared to play. They may not be able to. May not have been able to finish the game, but they was prepared to play. I have never seen Lions teams prepared to play. They normally are off of adrenaline or they off for some kind of unfortunate situation of excitement, and they come in with that kind of to pump them up. But the only thing about that doesn't last to the duration of 4 quarters, let alone a season. So we always had to have a gimmick or something to get us going. And no disrespect, in the '91 year, Mike Utley, what happened to him? That was a little gimmick. But it couldn't. They went up against Washington. What happened? Flat. So they always needed some kind of outside motivation versus just being ready to play. And I've never seen up until Patricia, I've never seen a Lions team ready to play. They may not ready. They may not have all the ducks in a row to complete the game. And what I mean by complete it, you win in 4 quarters, and you're getting down to the last 3 minutes, and it comes down to possessional ball. They may not have may not be in place to capitalize and close out the game. But anyway, with that being said, I close this video out. All right, Lions fan.